Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. It seems like almost every day, Madison Avenue and Hollywood go out of their way to emasculate the heterosexual black man and degrade the heterosexual black man's image. And GQ magazine, the magazine that is supposed to be the industry standard for men's fashion, has decided to participate in the emasculation of the American heterosexual black man by featuring musician Pharrell on the cover of its magazine wearing a goose down dress. And your Pharrell being featured on this cover is social engineering to promote the emasculation of the heterosexual black man and the denigration of the black male image. And this is done because your GQ magazine, which is supposed to be the industry leader for men's fashion, is now promoting the emasculation of the heterosexual black man in the pages of its magazine, and then talking about how it's the new masculinity. Well, when I take a critical examination of the so-called new masculinity in its new masculinity issue, I see an attempt to destroy heterosexual black masculinity, heterosexual black manhood, and to socially engineer the idea that in order for a black man to be masculine, he has to appear feminine, because this image of Pharrell wearing a dress is designed to appeal to the next generation of kids who go out here and see these images and believe that these images are masculine, when in actuality, these images are designed to degrade the black male image. And when you look at these pictures of Pharrell throughout this article, basically wearing women's clothes and looking like a female, it is all about degrading the black male image and making the black man appear to be less than any other man out here. Because I find it interesting that GQ, the supposedly leading publication as related to men's fashions, has not decided to put a white man on its cover talking about so-called new masculinity. Because they know if they were to put a white man on the cover of their magazine talking about so-called new masculinity, they would face a backlash on the same level that Gillette faced when it decided to go in with feminists and talk about how masculinity is toxic. Because as a result of Gillette deciding to devalue masculinity, men across the world decided that they would no longer buy your Gillette razors, and as a result, your Gillette lost over $8 billion in 2 quarters. And because Gillette lost so much money as a result of that backlash, we don't see many of these companies talking about this whole masculinity thing, toxic masculinity, as related to white men, because white men decided to take their dollars and vote with them by walking away from the Gillette brand. And what black men need to do is start walking away from mainstream media and buck dancing, bojangling shills like your Pharrell, and send a message to buck dancing, bojangling shills like Pharrell, who promote this new masculinity that emasculates black men, and send a message to Madison Avenue and Hollywood and its institutions like GQ magazine that you will not disrespect black men by degrading our image. And this is something black men need to do, because as long as they are allowed to promote images that degrade our image, we need to not support that media, because that media is designed to insult us as black men, and it's designed to devalue our masculinity and our manhood and tell us that we are less men, because again, we don't see any of these images featuring white men or non-black men out here, like your Hispanics, your Asians, or your Arabs, because in some of their cultures and traditions, to feature a man in a dress or a woman's clothing is considered an affront and an insult, and they also would be protesting this affront and insult full force because they know what the definition of a man is. Unfortunately, many black males, because they have grown up in these single mother households, do not understand what the definition of a man is. They don't understand what the definition of masculinity is, and because they don't understand the definition of manhood and masculinity, they believe in people like Pharrell who talk about blurred lines and distancing themselves from traditional masculinity. Well, it's up to heterosexual black men who understand the definition of manhood and masculinity for us to define the lines for manhood and masculinity, and it's up to us to set the boundaries for black manhood and masculinity and define the black male identity for the next generation. And if we don't go out here and define the lines for black manhood, black masculinity, and heterosexual black manhood and masculinity, then we're leaving Madison Avenue and Hollywood to do this. And if they go out there and use their corporate shills like Pharrell and many of these other buck dancing, bojangling, step and fetch it Negroes to do it, then we are in some serious trouble, because what's going to happen is black manhood is going to get erased and replaced with an effeminized state of manhood with these soft, emasculated, weak, neutered males. And these soft, emasculated, weak, neutered males are going to promote a manhood that is not anything masculine and everything feminine. And this is something black men have to push back on. And the reason why we have to push back against your corporate shills like Pharrell, your institutions like GQ magazine, is because black manhood needs to be defined by heterosexual black men, and heterosexual black men need to step up and make the standard for black manhood, because mainstream media, as it's standing right now, wants to erase heterosexual black manhood and masculinity, because they know that when you have a black man who takes power in his community, he is going to set a standard that pushes back against white supremacist narratives like this so-called new masculinity, which is all about promoting toxic masculinity to a generation of young boys and using a shill like a Pharrell to lead these boys like a Pied Piper down a road, because without a father in the home or men in the community to come in and show them what actual masculinity looks like, what actual black manhood looks like, and what actual heterosexual black manhood and masculinity looks like, Madison Avenue in Hollywood would have these black boys thinking that being effeminate, being homosexualized, and being a male is manhood, when being a man is a complete different thing. And when you look at the definitions of manhood in black and white, you clearly see the racism and white supremacy being promoted on these platforms, and you see how it's all about devaluing the black man and making the black man appear to be less of a man in the face of other men in the world. So this GQ magazine, this is something that black men need to get together and push back on. This is something black men need to get together and start a boycott of. And this is something we need to stand against, because new masculinity is about emasculating the black man and stripping that black man of his manhood by using Hollywood celebrities to promote some so-called new masculinity, which is all about designing a man who acts more like a woman and is seen on the same level as a woman, a laughingstock, something not to be taken seriously, and something that needs to be seen as having no value in society. So images like this are designed to destroy a black man's manhood and say that it's about evolving his masculinity, but it's not evolving his masculinity because God defined what makes a man. God designed what makes the standard of a man, and when God made that standard, he did not blur any lines, and he did not need to evolve it, because what he made from what makes masculine is perfect. What he made man to be was perfect in his eyes, and there was no need to change that into something that fits a white supremacist agenda to destroy the black man and strip him of his manhood so that white men can appear to be superior to other men in the world. If you'd like to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon or my PayPal or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to learn what makes your so-called new masculine man a toxic male, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback, Kindle formats, Smashwords, Barnes & Noble, or the iBookstore. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.